folks, Big Woodsman here. Today we're going to be making a coat rack, and we're going to be using live edge material with some railway spikes. So stay tuned, let's see what we get into. So here's the pieces we'll be using. We've got our live edge board. We're going to be putting it through the planer, cleaning it all up, and then we've got an assortment of railway spikes. So I have the fortunate of living pretty close to a railway line that on a nice sunny afternoon you can go out, just walk down the edge of the line. You can find these discarded, they're old spikes that they don't use anymore. So pick up a couple and you're ready to go for this project. So the first thing we're going to do is clean up our railway spikes. They're really rusty from laying around outside. So we're going to take the knotted wire wheel and we're just going to lightly brush up, clean all the rust, surface rust off this, and then we can go ahead and prep them for the next step. So the next step in making our coat rack is we've taken our railway spikes. You can see we've only cleaned up half of them. We've drawn a line on 3 inches from the end to here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to chop these off because we don't want them sticking out of our sign. If we were to just nail them in, they're going to be sticking out into your room way too far. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to cut these off. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to drill and tap them so we can actually bolt them through our sign. So we're going to go and chop these now at 3 inches. So now that we have our railway spikes cut off 3 inches nice and squared, we're going to head and drill and tap them for 1/4 bolts. So when you're tapping for 1/4, a 1/13 64 drill bit is what we're looking for. So we've got that loaded in the drill press. We're going to go ahead, we're going to drill this, and then we're going to tap it to put a bolt in from the back side of our hanger. So the next part of the equation is to tap the hole that we've just drilled with a 1/4 tap. So we have our tap ready. We're going to give it a little shot of oil just to make it cut a little easier. Once you get it started, it'll relatively tap its way. The important part about tapping, if you've never done it before, is once you feel it cut, back it off a 1/4 turn to break the chips out of the channels. If you don't do that, it'll bind. It'll be very difficult to tap. Next thing we're going to do is prep our board. So we got a nice piece of live edge ash. We're going to put it through the planer. We're going to run the top side off to clean it up and then put a nice flat surface on the back. This is going to be what we're going to mount our rail iron spikes to make our coat rack. So here's our board. We've gone ahead and planed off the front surface. It's nice and flat, ready to go for our coat hooks. We've cleaned off the back. We've put a nice flat surface on it. The next step is we're going to take the draw knife and we're going to clean up the edge of this live edge board. If you want to know how to use a draw knife or want to see that done, check out one of my previous videos on using a draw knife. So now that we have our board prepped, it's sanded, it's smooth, next thing we have to do is drill our holes in order to set our railway spikes for our coat rack. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to lay out those holes, we're going to drill them, and then we can bolt from the back side to mount these, but not until we finish it, and that's the next step. So here's our board. We have it all sanded, finished it down. We've drilled for our 4 coat hooks that we're going to be putting in this. We've also drilled and countersunk the back side, so that way the heads will sit flush with the wall. So the next step in finishing off this plaque is we're going to be finishing it with some Minwax tung oil. Now, I don't know if you've ever used tung oil or not, but if you haven't, there's lots of videos out there online on working with tung oil. If you want to see the actual steps or want me to do another video on it, just comment in the comment section and I can put that out for you, no problem. But I'll show you the quick steps on applying the tung oil. So the first thing we're going to do is apply it with a little sponge cloth just to get the first coat on. So you'll see that go on right now. So now that we have our board oiled, we've got excess on it, so we're just going to go ahead with a rag and we're going to rub off the excess before it sort of gets soaked into the wood. We just want a light coat to start, and then we're going to do several of these coats over top. So here is the board for our coat rack. We've got 5 coats of tung oil on it. We've gone through with the SOS pad, and we've scrubbed down in between every single application. The next step we're going to do on this board is we're going to use a polishing compound or floor wax, anything of that nature, and we're going to buff this and polish this to sort of really bring out the shine. But I'll try to show you this up close. So here's the last part that we're going to be doing. We're going to be using this turtle wax rubbing compound, and we're going to be putting a nice coat on and then buffing it off. Our final step is to mount our railway iron spikes to the board. We've gone ahead, we've countersunk the back, we've drilled these, tapped these to 1/4-20. We've got some nice bolts here. So now we have to just go ahead and bolt these from the back side in. There you have it, folks, a simple railway spike coat rack. Pretty simple to make, piece of live edge ash, You drill the spikes, pretty simple to do. The only real labor-intensive process is oiling the wood. It takes multiple coats to get a nice finish. It's going to be over multiple days. So that's about the longest procedure. Other than that, only a couple hours and you can knock one of these out yourself. So remember, it's life out there in the woods. I'll see you out there in it.